You're listening to the WBT Podcast with Michael Lodge. Listen to all of our podcasts at www.wbtpod.com. Stay informed. Let's get started.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. And today is Sunday. It's a windy day here in Palm Beach, Florida. The wind is blowing it so hard that if you hear trees beating against the windows of my studio, that's the reason why. Because of the strong wind. So today our conversation is going to be about what's going to happen next week. We have a whole bunch of activities going on. So let's get started. I'll be right back in just a few seconds.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
I hope all of you had a really good Thanksgiving weekend. Finished up all of those leftovers, all the turkey sandwiches, all the dressing, deviled eggs. It should be gone by now, so you can start a fresh week without being so full, or sleepy, or drowsy. I went and saw a really good movie last night. And it had a very good message, and it was a movie about Fred Rogers. And the whole message was really about forgiveness and dealing with the anger issues that you've had in the past and getting to that point where you forgive. Excellent movie. If you want to go see it, go see it. It's going to be a little emotional. So get ready for that, because some of it will touch parts of your lives. But it's a good movie. I always liked that show when I was a kid. It was like your uncle or your dad was coming in, or your grandfather was coming into the living room, and we're going to play, and we're going to talk, and we're going to see some puppets. It was a very good show. That's before all of the Game Boys and everything else came online. And everybody began spending so much time in front of the game stations. So this next week, we have some issues. We have the impeachment hearing that's going before the Judiciary Committee of Congress. The chairman is Nadler. By the way, I want to tell you something about Nadler. Nadler loves impeachment. I want to remind you, go back and Google this, okay? Nadler was trying to impeach Bush. He hated Bush, so he was trying to impeach Bush. Luckily, we had a few years after that where there was some Democrats in power, so he didn't talk about impeachment anymore. But then he goes right back to it with Trump. Impeach Trump. Nadler has a history. Go back and research it on Google. You'll find that this individual loves to impeach or try to impeach Republican presidents. That's all he loves to do. He has nothing under his belt. He has no passage of congressional bills that has his name on it that were ever a success. But he loves to talk about impeachment. That's his whole thing. And he and Schiff have been able to convince Nancy Pelosi that that's what the Democrats should do. Unfortunately, it's beginning to backfire on them. That's the problem. That is the big problem. And let me tell you why. During the Schiff impeachment show, they had several witnesses that were brought before the American people. Not one of those individuals could say that President Trump committed a crime. In fact, a lot of them said that he did not commit a crime. The majority of the individuals brought before the American people heard what they heard from somebody else. Their testimony was based upon something else, which is hearsay. An individual who heard the conversation as he was sitting across the table of the president with no speakerphone on. That's the type of idiotic testimony that we received before the American people. And I think the American people saw there's nothing there. Every time they were cross-examined, they failed every single time. And they admitted that Trump did nothing wrong. So as you saw through the course of the hearings, that Schiff kept coming back with a new word. Bribery, interference, and the list went on. And the problem is that since he had no broken law under the Constitution, he had to come up with a political agenda. And that became his own personal law. Now, he also tried to convince you saying, whatever the word that Congress decides to impeach the president on, that is what he's going to be impeached on. Not upon the law, not upon the Constitution, or what the Constitution says that a president is impeached upon. No, it was upon his word, his political agenda, but not the law. And that's where the whole thing failed. The whole impeachment process failed because you had hearsay witnesses, you had no constitutional law that was broken, you had no criminal law that was broken. Nothing was proven. So now it goes to the Judiciary Committee. And we're going to be going through this whole process all over again. Now, it's going to change a little bit because now we're going to hear from constitutional scholars. Now, the Democrats have a really bad problem with constitutionality. They always have. They don't really understand the Constitution. And they always hire individuals who think politically. They hire attorneys that think politically and not legally and not constitutionally. And that's what you're going to see as their witnesses, as they bring forth constitutional, what they call constitutional scholars, to discuss what is impeachable and what is not impeachable. Now, the president also has the ability, he has the ability to have an attorney there to question. Not to bring witnesses, only to question. Now, which is a waste of time, because once again, the witnesses are stacked. And luckily we have members of Congress who know how to ask very good questions directly to the point and on the constitutionality of the hearing. So the president, I think, as of yesterday or the day before, said he wasn't going to send legal counsel there. Which it will, if it's voted on to go to the full Congress, and Congress says, okay, we're going to vote on impeachment, and if it goes over to the Senate then, that's when it becomes dirty, because now the president has a whole team of attorneys that will be issuing subpoenas also. And that's where it's going to get very dirty for the Democrats, because now the president can call and can cross-examine and can lay charges. Now, the other issue that I see in the Senate side, you have how many U.S. senators running for the Democratic presidency? They're running against President Trump. So if they were to do something correct and right, they would sustain from voting because they have a conflict. They have a conflict of interest. They want to become president too, and if they voted guilty on this individual, that would stop him from becoming president. So we have this conflict of interest by U.S. members of the Senate who are running for president who need to abstain from any type of voting. They can go out, they should sustain even from any type of hearing, and they should go out, continue your campaigning because you really need it. They really need it. They're not. If you look at Kamala Harris has a real problem at the moment. She has internal strife within her party because her sister is running that show. Even though Kamala has hired a political manager, a campaign manager, the sister is running the show. So if anybody wants to buy a paper clip, they have to go through her. If there's any agenda or any meeting things, any time or scheduling issues, it has to go through her. The campaign manager really has nothing to say about it. There was a big, long resignation letter from one of her campaign people, and they said that they've never seen people treated so badly in their life. So my question is, if you can't handle your own campaign and hire the right people, how in the world can you manage this country? I dread to think of who she's going to hire for defense secretary or for secretary of state. If she cannot even handle the campaign issues within her own campaign, she's not a leader, and she should not be in a leadership position. She had the same problem when she was the Attorney General of California. She did such a bad job letting out prisoners that should not have been let out, and then going back into the streets and committing more crimes. She has a really bad reputation. She has a bad history. And then I'm really concerned because this morning I went onto my Twitter feed and I saw a video of Joe Biden giving a speech, and I have no idea what he was even talking about. It was so confused. It was so mixed up. No one knew what he was talking about. It looked like senility setting in. So they don't have any individual on the Democratic ticket that could win over the American people because either they're too far left, they're too socialist, or they have really bad ideas. The only person that they have is no one. Bloomberg isn't going to get there, and let me tell you why. He made a statement over the weekend saying poor people should be taxed more because it will hold them back from spending on stuff that they don't need. Now, who in the world is going to make a statement like that to the American people and be taken for granted, be taken for idiocy? So the Democrats don't have anybody. So the only option that they have right now is impeachment. If they can do more damage to the president, that's their whole goal. You got Nadler, who wanted to impeach Bush, and now he wants to impeach Trump. And now he's been talking about this from day one of Trump being voted in as president and taking the oath of office. So every individual on that committee has a history of wanting the president, on the Democratic side, wanting the president to fail, wanting the president to be impeached. And they have done nothing in the last 3 years or 4 years that we've had Trump as president. The Democrats have done nothing to improve the American people's life. We have a trade bill between Canada and Mexico at the moment sitting on Pelosi's desk, and she doesn't want to bring it forward. One, because it's a good bill. It creates jobs, it creates trade, it creates a really good fairness action between all three countries of America, Canada, and Mexico. But it's too good. So Nancy wants to hold it back on her desk because it's just too good. It's going to make the president look too good. She doesn't care about the American people and how it's going to benefit the American people. No, she doesn't care about that. Because her whole view right now, her whole goal is to impeach the president. When she could be putting legislation forward and getting the president to sign it, going through the Senate and then having the president sign it into law that will benefit the American people. But that's not what she wants. She wants to push this corrupt impeachment thing down the throats of the American people. And I think right now the American people have seen what's going on. And even though the Pelosi came out and said, this is not political, this is how we protect our democracy. Unfortunately, it's the opposite of what she's doing. What she is doing is destroying our democracy and our liberties and overriding the Constitution of the United States based on a political agenda to impeach and do damage to the President of the United States. Now, I don't care if you are a Democrat or if you are a Republican or an independent. Take those hats off and throw them over on the sofa. Because what you should be looking at over this week, and I want you to pay very careful attention, and I want you to study the Constitution of the United States as it deals with trials and it deals with crimes and misdemeanors and treason. I want you to look at it very carefully, because if Nadler and his committee are trying to convince you that they have their rights, or what they say overrides the Constitution, then we're in a very dangerous situation for you and me. Let's say you and I had to go to court. And instead of following the law that the judge has to follow and that the other attorneys and the prosecutor have to follow, and prosecuting whatever crime that they say we made, we have specific laws to protect us. Laws to cross-examine witnesses, laws to present testimony, witnesses, and the list goes on. If the Democrats this week show beyond the shadow of a doubt that they have a legal standing, then let's look at the legal standing. And let's look at the testimony, and let's look at the documentation, and let's look at the evidence of their legal standing that they feel that they have a legal standing on. If they feel that their legal standing is based upon what they feel Congress has the right to do, they have the legal standing. Unless it's constitutional in nature. And if they can show whether or not a law was broken under the laws of the United States of America. Not based on political words or political agendas, but based upon the laws of the United States of America. And let me tell you, we are going to see what I feel is going to be their political standing. And they're going to try to push this president out, or try to press the point to the American people that they can push and shove this president around based upon their political whim and not based upon democracy or the Constitution of the United States. That's what's going to happen. We are at the point now where if they are able to succeed in this, then what is going to happen within the courts to you and I if we should ever happen to be before a judge? Is the judge going to toss out the constitutionality and the law of the land and based upon what he feels, what she feels as she sits on the bench? Understand that this is purely political. And we're in trouble if it happens. As I said before, the political candidates on the Democratic side have no chance in hell at the moment because of the political positions, the socialist agenda, the high taxation, that will hurt Americans and not help it. I heard an argument this morning about how everybody deserves to have Medicare. And she said that she was an individual who knew everything about health care. Unfortunately, her argument failed in her very first sentences because it was based upon a political view and not what is actual reality of how Medicare works and how taxation works and how taxes will go up on all Americans to be able to support other people who can't afford to purchase insurance. So we see that political agendas are trying to override what the actuality of the rule of law and how taxation works and how everything else works and how it affects each and every single one of us. They're willing to take the political agenda and push it against you, push it upon you, smother you with it. And they fail to tell you how legally it's supported. So this week, I want you to take very careful consideration and look and listen very carefully to how the Democrats try to form their argument, which is, I'm going to guess, is going to be based upon a political argument and not a legal argument. And every time they speak to the press this week, it's going to be a political agenda. It's not a legal agenda. Now, they're going to try to fool you. They're going to try and fool you because they're very good at this. Politicians are very good at twisting words. But I want you to listen to those twisted words and come to your own conclusion. Is this a constitutional and rule of law argument? Or is it a political argument? If they're just going to go out to the public and say, well, he's guilty of this and guilty of that, but they have no evidence to show it, then it's a political agenda. Listen very carefully, watch very carefully. I want you to get on the phone and on the internet, and I want you to start calling all of these members of Congress and say, listen, enough is enough. We're tired of it. We're fed up. We are worn out with all of this political stuff. Either get to your office and do your job and pass these bills, or resign from Congress. Because right now you're not helping me, you're not helping my family, you're not helping my community, and especially you're not helping my nation. Get on the phone. Be proactive. Take this country back by your own voice. Let these individuals know that they are wrong in what they are doing. Adam Schiff is now putting together his argument to be sent over to the Judiciary Committee, and the Republicans are putting together their own response to that. Read those very carefully. Don't go by this emotional outburst that you saw from Adam Schiff, which is totally... And then, you know what? He had this emotional outburst, right, in this closing argument in his committee. The very next Sunday, he was on CNN. And he made the statement that said, listen, the question was asked to him, do you think that he should be impeached? Do you think Trump should be impeached? And what he said, Adam Schiff, what he said was, well, I don't really know. I'm going to have to go back and talk to my constituents and to my colleagues and see what should happen. So we went through this whole process of nonsense for a whole week, and then he comes on national TV and says, well, I don't know. I got to go back and talk to my constituents and my colleagues. And what a bunch of nonsense and stupidity. So anyway, watch, listen, take notes. I'll be coming on with my commentary, and we'll see what happens. Everybody go out and have a great Sunday. I'll talk with you very soon. God bless you, and having a good Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.